Mel, 12.
I bet you didn't do the tour, did you?
All right, all these taller than most homes in America. I'll describe to you a little bit later. You know, 66.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that did not ride on my elevator coming down here, my name is Eno, and I'm going to be your guide for this stop and the next 2 stops. Before I start this 1 mile long time. So back in the 1930s, when they decided to build the Hoover Dam right here, between the Black Canyon Wall shaft, you're going to see the armature of the road down below. The armature of the road with about 7,000 steel plates and magnets and 40 4-ton electric magnets. Right now, on the circle of steel plates, and once it's assembled, you put it back to that grade and make it uncertain. But the rest of the generators standing in front of you, they are all 70 feet tall, but currently the top 30 feet of each one of them. From the exciter cap on top to the floor is 30 feet. There's another. If you look straight down below, the first one on line is the ladder 1 and 1, followed by the ladder 5 and 8 are on line as well. All 17 generators produce upwards of 2,000 feet megawatt power. That's instituted in electricity for about 2 million homes. 56% of electricity is generated on an annual basis does go to Southern California, our biggest customer. Cranes alone can easily lift the rock on the ground. But why do we have 2 bridge cranes here? Well, the answer lies again directly over the rails below you on the floor. That roller assembly down here, when fully assembled, weighs upwards of 580 tons. So we actually have to combine both of these bridge cranes together to form what we call the super crane, with a combined lifting effort of 600 tons. So we can lift that roller down below and any other roller inside of these generator assemblies for repair and maintenance. Now the last thing I'm going to bring your attention to this big power plant is actually behind everybody on the rails. If you follow my arm up this big wall right here, you are staring at the Hoover Dam. The Hoover Dam stands 726 feet tall. The crest length at the top is 1,244 feet long, just shy of a quarter mile spanning Nevada with Arizona. The top of the dam is 45 feet wide, and that is the road. But just as impressive is the thickness of the base of the dam below us. The base of Hoover Dam is 660 feet thick. To give you an idea how much concrete that really is, take a look at this wall again. And then turn your heads completely around and look at that far wall past the generators down there. That is only a distance of 650 feet. So you still have to add another 10 more feet the length of this room, and then fill this room with concrete from top to bottom. And that would then equal the thickness of the base of the dam below us. Ladies and gentlemen, I remind you again, Hoover Dam is 6.6 million tons of solid concrete. It was built to last over 2,000 years. But today, its primary job is to contain the largest man-made reservoir in the United States, and that happens to be Lake Mead, which is 450 feet from where we're standing here in the balcony. All right, so that concludes our presentation. There are 27 of you guys with those red, white, and blue wristbands. If you have a wristband on your right wrist, please have those hands up, and please proceed to Crystal.
Here, there was nothing here. They had to build roads to get out to the work job site. They had to get rails to get all the supplies out here. In places like these canyon walls, they had to blast into the canyon walls just to get closer, to get lower to blast into those walls some more, because you had to put in walls, you had to build these tunnels. So this is what they were starting with, and to see what they ended up with is absolutely impressive.
you have
Here back in 1937.
red electricity.
It's designed for our guests. That's every one of you. Those before you, those that will come out. You know, they knew they were changing history, but they wanted to ensure people would come appreciate it for generations to come. I think they did a great job. You know, we started 91 years ago, and here we are today. As we're walking through, I want to point out the terrazzo inlays. So more of the terrazzo inlays that you saw in that main power plant balcony as they continue through, but a lot of them have that same kind of circular motion, that design, that flow. That's the energy
40.
being created.
Higher than the last point is what?
In the very beginning, right on top of the dam, they would come down the same elevator shaft that we're using. Folks, it's the same elevator box. It's been redone a few times though, so perfectly safe. It's very 21st century now, but we're taking the same path that all these others took before us. They would come into this tunnel, and as you turn and look this way now, you can see it draws your eye forward. More of that architecture designed to just wow and kind of impress you at every turn. That was all intentional. This tunnel, this dam was built for tours. The next tunnel we go into was not built for tours at all. Okay? We're going into the more like back of house, kind of behind the scenes areas. And so it's going to be different. It won't be as beautiful. I think it's probably just as cool, if not in some ways actually cooler, just because you're kind of behind the scenes. You're in a place that not a lot of people have gotten to see. They only started letting us do tours in here after they stopped doing the power plant floor tours, and that was after 9/11. So most of the folks that came earlier hadn't seen what we were about to see. Now remember from the window, I showed you the vent cover. While you were looking out there and looking at the face of the dam, did you notice the dam kind of looked like a series of columns? It has this very linear look. And that has to do with how it was constructed. So this wasn't one big giant pour. This was a series of interlocking blocks. But not like Legos where you would stagger them to make them nice and strong, because that would be too rigid. They needed some flexibility to help it be more earthquake proof, to help it withstand changes in temperature and water pressure from the lake behind. And so those blocks are set one atop of the next, and they would eventually create this massive column. And these columns are side by side. And these columns are many blocks thick even from the face of the dam to the lake side. And so when you get to where the two columns meet, wherever they meet, they're keyed in together kind of like this. This is a very simple illustration, but they're zigzag on the side, and that's keyed in so that it's got a little bit of ability to move and adjust, but it's nice and firm because it's being kind of held together there. When we get up into these next tunnels, you're going to see the joints where the two columns meet. When we get to the end of the tunnel, there's another spot where we have that staircase I told you about. So that staircase, when we're at the far ends, the Arizona or Nevada side of the tunnel, of the dam, people are sometimes surprised to hear that it's not actually anchored into the canyon walls in any way. There's no metal holding it in place in the canyon or in place on the ground. It's held in place by sheer weight, 6.6 million tons, as Eno mentioned. And when you get to the sides where it's notched into the canyon walls, and keyed in is the phrase that they use, but it's basically just like a nice big notch, about 75 feet in to each of the canyon walls. So the weight of the lake behind is pushing on that arch, and it's distributing all of the weight of the water, trillions of gallons of water, into those canyon walls, which is taking it off, like taking the stress off of the dam itself. But because of all that, you had these columns, the way they built it, would help allow for that slight allowance for movement. You'll get that seepage because of where the edges are keyed in. It's not like completely sealed off. They would grout it shut. They have what they call a grout curtain, but there is still some small amounts of water that come through. All that water is collected and sent back out to the waterway. That's why they built these drains here. That's why they have the drains in the first two tunnels that you saw. And in fact, this next tunnel that we go into, as we're walking through, there's a small gutter on the side. Same story like this, it's been filled in. They didn't want anybody to step in it and get hurt. And we weren't really getting a lot of water in that little gutter, that little collection area. We just got feet covered up, make it nice and safe. Now when we get up there, folks, we're going to take a 2-elevator trip because this elevator is a lot smaller than the last one we were in. I'm going to split the group about in half so we can get a head start. RC is going to help me get the second half of the group upstairs. It'll only be a couple minutes. When we get up there, please keep in mind that vent cover we saw from the window is at the end of a cylindrical cylindrical shaft, about 5 feet 11 inches. So if you're anywhere near there, watch your heads. Watch your heads, watch your steps. If you have glasses up top, watch those too. When we're walking down, I'm gonna have whoever's out of the elevator first lead the way. You're gonna head down. At the end, you have a moment to take a picture, take a look. You can stick your arm out and wave at the people in the visitor center if you want. No funny faces. Some people like to put their cameras outside and get selfies from outside of the dam. You are welcome to do so, folks. But please be advised, if you drop your phone, you're never going to see it again. I can't go get it. Don't have time to pick up all the little pieces, hope it backs up too loud. Okay? So you'll get out there, get your pictures. Listen, people do it. My coworker, she does it all the time, not me. It's up to you. Also, as we're heading down that shaft, there is about midway, there's another shaft, it's a vertical shaft, and that's actually going to be the grouting gallery. So previously they had these grout machines and these pumps mounted on the two side things, which you'll see sticking out a little bit, so watch out for those two. They'd have these hoses, they would go down in the grouting gallery to grout all the seams shut. And so I just tell folks about it because when I don't tell people about it, they go, oh, you should have told me. Should have had to walk up on that and be surprised. It is a vertical shaft, perfectly safe. It's like triple reinforced, heavy duty steel grate. But yes, it's a vertical shaft, so just be advised. But essentially, we're going to get up, we're going to go down, take a look, take some pics, come back up. Now remember, we have a bigger group, 27 people, so I want to make sure everybody does have a chance to be down there and take some pictures. But also, I have other things that I want to show you at the other end. So I do ask that we kind of keep it moving. Don't be in such a hurry though that you don't get a good picture. Remember to tap the screen so it focuses on what you're trying to see. Sometimes we get a close-up of the louvers and the bridge is a blurry old mess. So you don't want that picture. Maybe you do, I don't know. Up to you. After that, we'll do the same thing. We'll head to the other end. It's a much shorter tunnel, but we'll do the same kind of method where we stay always to the right, U-turn, come back up the right. As long as we stay to the right when we're passing, there is plenty of room. And then just one last thing in that circular tunnel. Don't get too high up on either side because it gets a little bit slick. And I don't want anybody to get hurt. As long as you stay right on the bottom, even when you're passing, super doable. Now, some things that you're going to see while you're in these tunnels. Okay, I'm trying to cover it, so when you're up there, you'll see it. We do have time for questions, but here's what you're going to see. Wood grain in all of the tunnels. So when they were pouring those concrete blocks one on top of the next, they would actually build these hollowed out forms that were going to be the tunnels. They would pour the concrete around it, then they'd pull the boards off from the inside after it cured. And so what's left behind, beautiful wood grain. It looks like we're walking through painted planks of wood tunneling. It's just concrete. The curved parts, 27. 27? Was that 27 last time? When you head down, you can say that same thing, the curvature, all the curved areas are going to have a lot of that really fine wood grain. So take a look. You're going to see some things scribbled on the walls, guys. We'll cover all that when we get over there. Numbers, dates, things like that. There's a whole lot of story to go with that. But I'm going to get us started so we've got time to sit down. Why not?
Sorry, guys.
No, you're good. You're fine.
There we go. Okay, let's get out of the gentleman's way. They can take their picture.
matagal na bala dyan. Bakit may ganito? Bakit may event ba?
Retention. Para if ever may mga walong side.
At least ka tayo pinakalas. No pressure.
And then just remember to make room for people when they're coming back. If we always stay right, we should have plenty of room. Stay right.
That is so neat.
So guys, right here in this corner, either while you're standing here or on your way back, this here is one of the many innovations that they had to ensure that this project was completed just as quickly as possible. This here is a Carlson metering device. Each of these plugs corresponds to a cylinder embedded in the concrete. It's kind of like almost like a diode, and they would get readings for pressure, strain, and temperature, and then they could calculate how far into the cure process that was. So the overall average was about 72 hours, but not every block was poured under the same weather conditions. So having real-time data was, it was key in ensuring that they could keep going at the quickest possible speed. They got this project done 2 years ahead of schedule. So they had this Carlson metering device. They had the triple-decker jumbo rig. That was a big one that changed the way things were running here. And then also that 6-story chiller to cool the concrete blocks. That helped tremendously. All right, guys, head on down that right-hand side. And so for my guys that were already up here, I'm going to have you head just a tad further down, about 5 feet or so into this tunnel. So there are 717 steps in this staircase. So they are because of the cooling lines that they ran through the blocks, they were about 72 hours for that filter into this stage. And then I'm sorry, sir, you had another question. No, you're good. Did you get a letter? So we're going to take a picture. Alright, and so now we're just gonna kind of congregate here as long as everyone has a chance to look. So I wanna make sure everybody sees this here, and this is the earthquake sensor. This is new technology, this earthquake sensor, not from the thirties. Back then, they actually had them sit here for 8 hours a day and watch a bowl of mercury. See if it wiggled or wobbled or did anything crazy. Very sensitive to any type of movement. Also, we did that out. So don't worry, in the 1930s, it was totally different. Now the stairs, you guys notice that one going down versus going up. Well, upstairs are all original. Same stairs workers would use all those years back. Awesome. Right next to the stairs, did you guys notice there was kind of a ramp?
somebody was trapped over there.
That's the ramp where all that seepage would come through from the upper levels. It would collect and it would send it down to the bottom to that seepage gallery. Some of that seepage ended up deteriorating the stairs on the way down, so they had to be replaced. At the time that they were replaced, OSHA had already become a thing. So they had to make them OSHA compliant. So they put a gate every 30 steps. They don't have any gates all the way up. Just on that 700 steps. So if you fall from up there, you're just. Still this lane, right by it. But I'll tell you, it makes it a whole lot harder to climb up those stairs. When I first came on board, they're like, hey, we're gonna go climb these stairs. And I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be awesome. So cool. And we climb up, and we can't get out. We can't get the door open. Nobody can get the door open. Turn around and climb back down. We need gates, right? But I mean, it was a lot of fun. But it's kind of crazy. It's a little sketchy going down those stairs because they are at a 55-degree angle. And you know, you've got this awesome handrail, and then you have to let go like every 4 feet because it's a big old post.
Tsaka sa'yo, baka nagalaw na mabilis yun. Baka na-blurry siya.
All right, everybody had a chance to see? All right, perfect. So let's help you on here.
Yo, masakit. Pili pa na ako eh. Okay. Eh, di ako sir. Nakita ko yan. Yo, masakit.
Don't touch or take rescue sensor.
Hopefully everybody can hear me. You might not be able to see from where you are, but you'll see there's a gap in three. Right here. This is 15 column always TV. That's one of my favorite things because, you know, I mean, nowadays we've got these phones and we can Google anything, we can calculate anything just with the supercomputers in our phones. These guys didn't have any of that. They had smarts, they had flag rules, and they had, you know, plenty of time to figure things out. What you've got here is some amazing, very highly sophisticated measuring equipment. You've got these posts here. If the distance between the posts gets greater, they know it's expanding. If it gets lesser, they know it's contracting. Very high tech. My favorite part was this bar. This bar is not holding anything together, guys. It is anchored to column P. Behind it, on column O, there's a little gap. If you put your finger behind there, you could get a measurement. I'm sure they didn't use fingers, but something a tad fancier. But I like it just because anybody can stick their finger and go, oh yeah, there's a little gap. If this gap gets bigger over time, they know that column P is being pushed forward by the weight of the lake. If the gap gets smaller, they know column O is being pushed forward by the weight of the lake. There isn't anything they can do about it. Remember, these are massive columns, but they'll know. Half the battle.
That's what they shut down the tours.
You'll have the advance warning to get out.
Yes.
No more tours.
Masulod daw ang finger talaga. Yeah, pronto na gano'n. May balang niya ako nag-push siya. Or na-push siya. Wala. Oo, para malapit lang.
So, di ba sabot kayo sa mga
Some measurement, something, if nag-move siya, or
remove na ito sa pressure?
yan, guys.
Pusi.
Fantastic day. Awesome little place. They have one of the original turbines in the Frank Crow Plaza in the downtown park. And when we get up to the exhibits surrounded, that's the other thing. When you're standing on the balcony there, you're only looking at the top 30 feet. Those units are 7 stories tall, 70 feet long. And then you have the pipes beneath it. Like they had to build this entire place to contain, you know, this massive generator. So they had to know what they were doing way back before they even installed them, because they had to build it to accommodate them. Like, it's so crazy to think about everything that went into this place. It really is. And those generators, they all still work except for the one that's being put back together right now. It's being reassembled. We don't have them always on all the time because we run out of water. Our real primary job is to manage the water resource, and then when we send it south, we're able to create electricity. All right, guys, so this is the beautiful view our visitors were treated to upon arrival. So we're doing it in reverse. I do want to say thanks again so much for coming out. I hope that the rest of your day was fantastic. And if you have any questions, come see us.